Football ain't over. You saw those USFL commercials.
Oh, yeah. See,
No, football is over.
football is over. You know
Yeah,
what, though? I
over.
like football so much, I'll watch some of the I'll give it a chance.
I won't.
Oh.
I've seen it
Come
before.
on, Coach.
No, Coach has seen it before. He's
Well,
done.
a lot of good football players
It's
out
time
there.
It's time to do some things. No.
Well, what are you going to watch then? You're not going to watch. Well, we'll be watching Kevin Durant with the Phoenix Suns now. The Western Conference, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving making some magic. We'll talk some NBA, get some NBA love. But
Buck, your boy Turpin was a Pro Bowler this year.
yeah, come on, Andre Turpin, MVP of that league, right into the Cowboys, and
Bro, they were home last night.
Hey, can we start with the headlines?
Dak was there.
Trending topics to start your Monday. You know what the lead story is. UBEO Business Services brings it to you. We will start with the Super Bowl, Glendale, Arizona. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs rallied from 10 points down at the half to take down the Philadelphia Eagles and win Super Bowl 57 in an absolute classic 38-35 final. Eagles owned the first half of the heavyweight matchup. They soared out to a 24-14 halftime lead thanks to a pair of Jalen Hurts touchdown runs and a 45-yard touchdown strike to A.J. Brown. Beautiful throw and catch there in the left part of the end zone. Margin would have been more in the first half and at halftime, but if not for Hurts' only first half mistake, a second quarter fumble that led to a 36-yard scoop and score touchdown by KC linebacker Nick Bolton, free 7 points there. But the second half was a different story. Chiefs rallied behind Patrick Mahomes, who had aggravated his right ankle injury before the half, but even still proceeded to shred the Eagles in the third and early fourth quarter, led the Chiefs to a 21-3 burst that put them up 35-27. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles responded. 8-play, 75-yard drive, capped off by another Hurts touchdown run. He had 3 of them on the day. Hurts also bullied his way into the end zone for the 2-point conversion, and the Super Bowl was tied at 35 with 5 minutes to go, and it was Mahomes' time. KC took the Chiefs on a 62-yard, 12-play drive to set up Harrison Buckner's game-winning field goal with 11 seconds to go. Chiefs claimed their second Super Bowl in 4 years. Mahomes named the game's MVP just 3 days after being named the league's MVP.
I think it was where we started at. We started in Texas in the offseason. Meeting basically a brand new group of receivers and learning what they did well, learning what we could get better at, and guys leading from there, man. I thought the guys accepted the challenge. It was a crazy year, but we ended up on top, man. You can't ask for any more from those guys.
Boy, were we privy to a great football game last night to end this thing.
Yeah, I'd love to get your.
Yeah, I thought that the Philadelphia Eagles were going to stomp them when they took that ball right down the field, and they really actually didn't really run it. They actually threw the ball, got that ball down the field, which was unusual. They did a little bit of both, and then I thought Kansas City played pretty well when it came to the run game. They didn't let, with the exception of the quarterback sneak, which they probably should have used all night long.
Well, they've been reading that all year long.
That's, gosh.
The unstoppable play. Remember, we know that Jalen Hurts is a power lifter, power squatter, could squat 500 pounds in high school, and they've used that play all year to such effectiveness.
What do you got to do? Come over the top and get him in the helmet and give him a concussion?
People have been trying to stop it all year long.
My goodness.
And it's just, the ability to push from behind, and that line gets so low. It's an absolute weapon, and we saw it for the Eagles because they extend drives and they wear down a team.
They're going for fourth down. They get you in 3rd and 6 or whatever. All they need is to get half of it. They're going to go.
Well, and that's part of, if you haven't watched a lot of the Eagles throughout the year, because I know a lot of casual fans come to the game and watch this Super Bowl closer than they watch any other game throughout the year. But that's really how that offense is just mauled through teams, because normally when the team would punt, they're going for it. When they kick a field goal, they're going for it. And over the course of a game, it just forces your defense to face so many more plays because you're normally off the field, but you're not now against the Eagles.
They had those long extended drives were just
and obviously, look, I'll say this for the big picture of the game, and we'll go macro down to micro. But I was surprised because I really felt like for a majority of the game, the Chiefs were the more physical team, and I don't think by a lot. But the physicality word, we talked to Brian Billick, the Super Bowl winning football coach, last week from Radio Row, and he talked about the Eagles being the physically dominant team. It was at least a push of which team was more physical yesterday, which I thought was credit to Andy Reid and his staff, because the Chiefs were supposed to get bullied by this Eagles physicality. And let's be fair about the second half. After really getting dominated in the first half, the second half, when Patrick Mahomes re-injured his ankle right before the half, that offensive line with an injured quarterback standing up to that pass rush and not allowing the number one sack team in the league to harass Patrick Mahomes, giving him the time.
Did they get a sack at all?
Not in the second half. They did not. Yeah, bro, I don't think they had a sack for the game when it all came down to it. And that's credit to Mahomes, but he was running for things pretty early. But boy, the halftime adjustments were just on point, and there's just a lot to dive into in this game. But maybe the single big, I mean, it's hard to tell you one single biggest play, but the Nick Bolton score fumble. If not for that, Buck, it would have been we could have been blowout city.
Yes, in the first half for sure.
I mean, the Eagles both teams scored on their first drive, right? It was 7-7. You had the great drive with the kickoff from the Eagles. They went right down and scored, stuck it in the end zone as they've done so many times this year. But the Chiefs responded. Chiefs went right down the field themselves, and Travis Kelce catches a touchdown. And you're thinking, okay, the game is on here. We got a heavyweight matchup here, punch, counter punch. But really from that point of the first half, the Eagles dominated. The Eagles took control of the game. They got some stops of Patrick Mahomes. He looked like he wasn't seeing the coverages very well. The Eagles were doing their thing. And if not for the scoop score, it might have been 24-7 at the half. Instead, it's 24-14. Chiefs have the ball coming out of the half. And, of course, we know coming out of half they went down and scored to make it 24-21.
Well, they scored 4 straight times. They didn't have any problems. When they used their motion, Philadelphia hardly used any motions, which they just lined A.J. Brown up in one spot and left him there. They had no motions. They didn't change the defense whatsoever of Kansas City. They just went out and stood right there.
Yeah.
And said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to out-physical you. We're not going to get any of your linebackers moving in any directions. And then they couldn't run the ball inside. They couldn't run between the tackles.
Well, and that's the key to the Chiefs.
I thought they would get outside. I really thought they could get outside on them. And they really didn't try with motions. And I mean, they got outside a couple of times with Sanders. But other than that, it was only about 3 times. That was it. And then they thought they were going to run off tackle against that group.
I thought Steve Spagnuolo did a great job. Defensive coordinator of the Chiefs, have a game plan. He was so tremendous, and
a young secondary. There was a time when there were 5 or 6 rookies on the defense for Kansas City playing.
I know. Well,
in the game. I mean, that's incredible.
Well, you heard Patrick Mahomes in the headlines, and he was talking about leadership of a great leader in Patrick Mahomes. He was talking about in the offseason when they traded Tyreek Hill and they brought in Sky Moore and Juju Smith-Schuster, all these new guys, Valdez Scantling, and other rookies, and Patrick Mahomes brought them all to Texas, and they were doing, like I said, individual workouts, get to know one another. And the defensive side of the ball, they did the same thing, rebuilding their secondary, and here they are at the top. And think about this, and consider this for the Chiefs: they've won 2 of the last 4, but they've had a look at being in 5 straight Super Bowls. We know the one year where the Patriots and then Dee Ford lined up offsides, or they would have beaten Tom Brady. They had been in the Super Bowl that year. And then last year when they lost to the Bengals, it was, they had a big lead, and then Joe Burrow brought them back, and they lost in overtime. Or else, Mahomes would be in 5 consecutive Super Bowls and having won how many. But it's just an amazing run that they're on, and they just showed you with all these rookies and Tyreek Hill.
They don't have big contracts to worry about.
Well, they've got Patrick Mahomes signed, and they're navigating their salary cap. But they showed you again, as long as they have Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo on the other side, and then number 15, they can beat you. They can beat you. And, of course, we'll get this text pretty quick. It was great until the refs ruined it. Well, look, I mean, you can say that, but the Chiefs scored on every possession of the second half.
Oh, yeah.
Every possession of the second half. The Chiefs, the Eagles at any point could have stopped them and not allowed them to score.
They couldn't stop
right.
them. They got
That's why
they got outcoached in that second half, especially in the fourth quarter. Those motions and come back and guys wide open. I mean, fool me once. My goodness.
Well, and I do, and you went back and forth with some folks on Twitter after the game, but I do believe that, the normal during the regular season and even in the playoffs, halftime is 12 minutes, right? You get 12 minutes. By the time you get in from the field, you take a pee, you drink some water, and you're right back out on the field. Halftime, we know the Super Bowl halftime's 30 minutes long. And we'll talk about Rihanna's performance and what it was all about. But you get extra time. And I certainly think that benefited the Chiefs to get Patrick Mahomes some extra treatment on that ankle. To really work him, tape it up, probably shoot it up full of, juju juice and get him back out there a little extra time. And maybe more importantly, the Chiefs coaches and Andy Reid knew, wait a second, we've got a hobbly quarterback. Let's see what the Eagles are doing to us. Let's reevaluate. And they made perfect adjustments because they came out in the second half.
Well, I thought Kansas City could have run the ball even better.
Yeah, Pacheco was running great.
Yeah.
I thought Jerick McKinnon, number 1, had a pretty good game. But in the end, say we want about the officials, and we'll go through that play that
Well, I only just saw the one. I mean, the one that I wouldn't have called pass interference that late in the game. I would have said, let's play on. That's the only one to me. Everything else is fine with me.
Well, let me
and
say,
you talk about the ones, the bobble catches and all that stuff.
I thought they got those right. I really do. I thought
Yeah,
they
those
got
are
those
hard.
right.
Those are just hard.
Well, everybody's mad about the holding call, okay, on Bradbury, number 24 for the Eagles. I'll just say this.
In a regular season, you're going to call that.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah, you would. You're right.
Because I cannot get on board with the folks saying, well, you can't call that play in that moment. Well, let's just go through this. The play on the second down play, they threw the exact same route to the other side, a little inside dig route to number 9, Juju Smith-Schuster, coming in, right? The little dig route, because they didn't want to run the ball, but they wanted to make sure the clock kept running. They were playing both the game and the clock. They were already in plenty of a good field goal range, but I understand the emotional part of fans saying, okay, good, let's let the Chiefs kick a field goal. Now we get to see if Jalen Hurts can take his team back down.
Yeah, because that's what you want as a fan.
As a fan, you want that.
Yes.
But in that moment, on second down, they run the little inside dig to Juju. He catches it, gets tackled. They flip the formation. They run the exact same play. Patrick Mahomes pump fakes the dig, and he turns to go to the end zone, and the guy grabs him. And so not only was he held not once but twice, he was the intended receiver on the play. The official has to call that. And after the game, Bradbury confirmed when asked, did you hold him? He said, yeah, I held him. I was hoping I'd get away with it, but I held him. So, again, it was holding twice. And on to the intended receiver on the play, who knows if he doesn't hold him, it might have been a walk-in touchdown. And earlier within the third and fourth quarter, Andy Reid had schemed up wide-open receivers that nobody was covering, right?
There was nobody around them.
Right.
Those are walk-ins.
The touchdown pass to Kevondre Turpin, who's the kid? The Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore.
Yeah.
No one even near him.
No.
Well, I mean,
they just get out schemed. They got fooled. They thought everybody was crossed, and all they did was reverse.
Yeah.
And the man who had to pick him off got picked off anyway.
Yeah. Well, they picked themselves off because they were so well scouting the Chiefs, because on those two wide open touchdowns, the motion man normally for the Chiefs,
they were going to switch.
Right. He comes really hard and goes full aggressive, right? And they do those little pump passes, little bump forward passes, and that's a huge staple for them in the red zone. But on both occasions, the receiver stopped and went back the other way right at the snap of the ball. So the timing of the snap was on point, and then the receiver just turned and went, and they'd already switched, and there's nobody out there to cover.
Oh, no, they're already outflanked. That was too easy.
And in the case of the holding call, which, again, as a fan, yeah, I wanted to see Jalen Hurts gets the ball back with 1:25 to go. Who didn't? But at the same time, it was holding. And who knows if he doesn't hold him, if he has a walk-in wide-open touchdown as well, because they had set up the play on the previous play. It was going to be a fake the dig and go and double move, and he held him. I cannot get on board with the folks saying, well, you can't call that in that moment. Well, it was a holding call twice. You have to call it. And yes, that's disappointing that then they were able to bleed the clock, kick the extra point, the field goal with 11 seconds, and it wasn't the dramatic finish fans wanted. But you can't get on the officials for calling a call that was right.
Well, see, as I said, in the regular season, I'm going to call that. I just thought it was early. The hold didn't affect much of it. I didn't think. But, I mean, you're right. If that's a regular season, I'm official, I'm definitely dropping. But you're supposed to do your job. And if you're doing your job, you drop that flag in the Super Bowl also.
Well, and the defender himself admitted, I held him. You got to know this about officials. It wasn't just a hold, Buck. He was beat. He was the prime target. Right, and officials know when a guy's beat, he's kind of off balance, because he's coming to jump the route. Next thing you know, the guy's turning and going. Well, he's off balance, and so to even holding him helped him regain his own balance.
Yeah, he had a jersey grip. The initial grab was a jersey grab, which then he got him twisted too.
Yeah,
but you got to call. If I'm not going to call it in a regular season, or if you do call it in a regular season, you still have to call that in the Super Bowl. That's a grab to the ball who's going directly to that dude. He's the primary target on that.
Well, I thought it had to be called, and I know it was disappointing. That's fine. That's the emotional part. But pragmatically, you got to call that play. And Chiefs get the victory. It was unfortunate for at least the climax that it felt like it was building to, the crescendo.
Oh, it did. It was like Jalen Hurts going to get one more chance to go down the field.
I know.
That was just two quarterbacks playing really good football.
And I think the fact that they did call it, and it was designed by Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, and they executed it, I'm going to give credit.
Well, they executed three unbelievable plays on them.
Yeah, they they won the battle in the second half. The Chiefs head coach and coordinator, their quarterback, their offensive line. And look, there's one thing that everybody was complaining about in the locker room, and rightfully so. Everyone was complaining about the field conditions.
Well, dude, they can't have that there.
And that's shame on the NFL.
Yeah, that was awful.
Shame on the NFL.
And it wasn't just on the painted part of the field.
Yeah, the whole field was coming apart, and guys were slipping the whole night, and that's disappointing, without a doubt. But, the Eagles were not crying about the holding call. The Eagles were talking about how we didn't get a single sack. We didn't their offensive line beat our defensive line in the second half when Patrick Mahomes was, had re-aggravated his ankle a little bit.
Yeah, that dude's good.
And he's really, really good. And Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, really, really good.
Boy, they schemed the crap out of them in the second half.
And figured out what you're doing and getting it done. But we'll take your thoughts, all angles. The game, I'm assuming when we see the TV ratings come out this morning, the overnights, it will be gangbusters because we've already gotten the NFL is rigged about 4 times on our text line. Well,
so that means that everybody watched.
Rigged to the fact that everybody watched it from front to back, and might be the most watched Super Bowl ever because it was such a dramatic game and such a tremendous finish. And I thought Rihanna did a great job. Heck, how about Chris Stapleton with the anthem? I thought that was
that was fantastic.
That was an all-timer too. I mean, it's not Whitney, but man, Chris Stapleton got your heart. I mean, I had chills several times when Chris Stapleton was singing our national anthem. I thought that was pretty awesome.